listeners. My name is Sheila, and welcome back to your Neuro Dive Corner. As usual, I would like to start my live with thanking all of the supporters. Thank you so much for following the channel, for engaging with the videos, for engaging with the chat. I would definitely love to see more engagement. I would love more messages from you guys letting me know which topics would you like to discuss, which videos are your favorites, which shorts are your favorite, which ones you have been watching, um, and all of that, because the whole point is building community, and it gets a little boring when it's just me up here sort of like talking and sharing, and we know, like right now, the way things are, it is very important, in order to keep our sanity, to engage, and try to like look for our tribe, our people, whatever they are. So anyway, today I wanted to talk a little bit about vicarious trauma and trauma in general, but vicarious trauma and the pipeline of vicarious trauma to whatchamacallit, to radicalization. So, and I think this is as perfect time as ever to talk about this because as we know, there's a lot of these going on. There's a lot of traumatic incidents that people are living through that eventually will have an impact. They obviously have an immediate impact. I don't have to tell you that. You can see it for yourself. You see the videos. You see the interactions. You see the approach. Um, in all honesty, this is all about cruelty, and sadly, what people don't realize is that further than the immediate impact that it has on the families that are being targeted and kidnapped, down the line, everybody that witnessed, everybody that participated, will feel some sort of impact as a result. And that's the way traumatic events work, right? Now, the thing with trauma and what people don't realize is like people right away like to link trauma to one specific big event, or they would like to just kind of like put it in the PTSD box, right? And trauma is so much more broad. There is so much more that goes into it. Oh, hi. Let me throw a shout out to the chat. Thank you everybody with the likes and the hit it, smash the heart, smash the like. Make sure you do all the good things. Hit the bell, hit the subscribe, hit the likes, share with your friends. And Carmichael, hi. Thank you for joining the live. Thank you for being one of our top supporters. This is a very humble channel, so every view matters, and I truly appreciate each and every one of you. So getting back to trauma. So a lot of people know trauma, obviously, in a very general way, as it relates to one particular incident that creates an impact, a negative impact on a person, and something that you can appreciate immediately, and it's understandable, is explainable. There's not a whole lot of guessing work into it, and that's generally trauma. But trauma comes in different varieties. Same with post-traumatic stress disorder. So one of the types of trauma that I want to talk about today, because it's happening globally, is vicarious trauma. So we can extrapolate and look at the example of Gaza in Israel. We know how traumatic those events have been. October the 7th, which was horrific, abhorrent, and shouldn't have taken place, that prompted a trauma response from Israelis, which the Israeli government, and let me make that clarification, I am talking about your dictator, not the Jewish people. I'm talking about Netanyahu in his dictatorship. They utilize anti Semitism as a weapon, and they honestly farmed the outrage that the Israeli people felt after October in order to then overreact and ethnically cleanse Gaza, which was always his plan. That's why he funded Hamas. But people don't educate themselves and they don't know what the background and the history of the region is and all of that. But anyway, so all of that trauma that the IDF soldiers are imposing in other people will cause trauma in them immediately and long down the line in the form of PTSD, in the form of moral injury, which is a type of trauma as well. And we'll talk a little bit about that. And further desensitizing and becoming nihilistic, where you lose all type of empathy and you pretty much become an malignant, antisocial, sociopathic person. And that's the problem with vicarious trauma, is that it can be a very quick pathways to radicalization. Um, and that's what scares me. So that is one example, the whole conflict between Israel and Gaza, because the vicarious trauma that the IDF soldiers are experiencing, as well as the trauma that the Palestinian people, the Holocaust, or genocide that the Palestinian people are suffering, will most likely, and history has taught us that, will radicalize the people even further. Um, and that's the problem. That's why there's no military resolution to this type of conflict. It always has to be through diplomatic channels and through concessions, and none of the countries are going to be happy or satisfied, and they'll have to find a way to live with that. But that ain't going to happen, at least not anytime soon, and not with the United States funding a genocide, which again, vicarious trauma. So all of us that are watching this video, coming into TikTok, coming into Instagram, seeing children being unalive in the most brutal ways, seeing human beings starving, war crimes left and right, that is going to radicalize people that are watching. That is creating vicarious trauma just by observing. And just by knowing that your tax money is funding horrific events across the globe that you can see by yourself in your little phone daily. And again, that type of trauma eventually either desensitizes you to the point that then you won't react to a genocide, or it will radicalize you and be kind of like throw you towards the antisocial spectrum of things. And that's where we see terrorism kind of like rise. Um, We have that perfect example inside of the United States right now. The United States has always had, let me throw a little hello to the chat. I have two of my top subscribers, Scarface and Naruto. Thank you for joining the live. Thank you for joining our community. Do all the good things. Hit the like, hit the hearts, hit the bell, all of that. Subscribe, share with your friends, invite everybody. And again, we are talking about vicarious trauma and how that is a pathway to radicalization. Okay, so like I was saying, so here in the United States, at a very minimum degree, obviously, we do not compare to Israel and Gaza yet. We do not compare to 1930s Germany yet. But we're getting there. The United States always held in high regard their police force, their law enforcement, um, and even more so the military. We have seen with this American Gestapo kidnappings how traumatic these events are. And we are all suffering collective trauma, which is also a thing, is when a group of people are experiencing a very intense, continuous environment of trauma. And eventually, it, there's only two ways that this can go. Either people will become desperate and radicalized and they will act out in anger, or they would flight, freeze, or fawn, which are the other trauma responses. But do not think for a minute that all of these images that are coming to you um, from all over the globe, but especially from inside the United States, don't think that that's not going to have um, a radicalization impact. Just because we're the United States of America, we are not immune. You know, we are very naive, and we are so willfully ignorant and wrapped up in this whole American exceptionalism that we think we are. It's almost like we took a vaccine, or and we think we're immunized from becoming the next dictatorship, from becoming the next revolution, all of that. And we're not. And by our own doing, because we did not know how to fight for our democracy. We took it for granted. We thought all we needed to do was vote and minimally engage. We made it into a sport that became a circus. And now we are seeing the traumatic effects of those decisions. And honestly, to see the military in the streets of the United States breaks my heart because on the heels of Veterans Day too, you know, we have a lot of our vets that are on house, not receiving services, not receiving health care. I saw a bunch of them today at the pantry in the food line. Um, and you don't think that eventually they're not going to become radicalized, seeing their brothers and sisters being ordered to patrol the streets when that is illegal? Posse Comitatus Act makes that illegal. You cannot turn the United States military against its own people. But yet here we are. And trust me, that will radicalize people. It will not only erode the honor, the respect that has always been held in this country towards our military servicemen and women, but it's gonna erode that trust to a point that we might find ourselves in a situation where American citizens will no longer trust or respect our military and will grow to see them as a threat and will grow to see law enforcement as cruel, as oppressors, as a threat. And I feel that we need to talk a little bit more about that. We need to start learning about trauma. Trauma responses is not only fight or flight, it is a whole spectrum. It goes from fight, flight, and it's not always linear, it's like grieving. So, a lot of the times, it even depends on the event. And you can react in a completely illogical, unrational way because at that point, you are using your lizard brain. That brain does not understand anything other than I'm in danger, there's a threat, and I need to eliminate that threat or get away from that threat as soon as possible. And again, being a mental health technician, being an EMT, being an autism specialist, I've seen how trauma manifests and all of the weird different trauma reactions that you can see and how it can creep up on you. And we don't talk enough about it. And I do think that people need to be aware that for the next, I would say, the next couple of 5 to 10 years, we are going to see a lot of trauma responses coming up, and a lot of vicarious trauma manifest because of all the horrible things and how frequently and how fast they are happening in this country these days. So anyhow, that's my little 2 cents for today. um, I also wanted to encourage people, in the description of the uh, yes, thank you guys, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. No, yeah, I like to share and I like to build community and I like to talk about neurodivergence because I think people need to shake the stigma. And I'm trying to build community. I'm trying to get people to shake the stigma about asking for help, about utilizing social services, about having a mental illness, having a disability, because all of us are literally just one phone call, one illness, one accident, one crisis away from being that person that needs food stamps, that needs Medicaid, that needs Section 8. There is nothing wrong with that. Asking for help in socialism should not be a sin. It should not be a stigma. And that is another form of trauma, is financial trauma, poverty. It, there's a lot of people right now that are in an increased risk of abuse and neglect because their children even are in an increased risk of abuse and neglect because they are scared and ashamed and they do not want to go to the food banks or the food pantries. They don't want to go apply for SNAP because they're embarrassed. And, the current climate obviously doesn't help as much, which is why I'm always saying make sure that you start local. Start at your community. Build a community pantry where people can come and leave what they don't need, take what they're gonna use. Things like that. Honestly, people, that's the only way we're gonna get through to this, and we'll see how we all come out on the other side. I mean, we are still processing um, COVID, so we'll see. We'll see how we make it through this times. But as always, thank you so much for joining. Please, 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 there's 240 of you on the channel. Every video should have at least 200 views. Please, please, please. And please go in the description and support your girl on the Fat Over 40 contest. If you can go and vote daily, the top 5 is going to be selected tonight. So make sure you check it in the description. As always, stay healthy, stay safe, and lift each other. Bye bye.